On August 13, 2018, a pregnant woman and her two young daughters vanished from their home in a quiet Colorado suburb. What began as a desperate search for a missing family quickly spiraled into one of the most chilling and heartbreaking true crime cases in recent memory. At the center of it all was a seemingly devoted husband and father, Chris Watts. But behind the facade of a perfect family man was a secret so dark it would tear everything apart. This is the true story of how a picture-perfect life concealed a horrifying truth. Shanann Watts was a vibrant, 34-year-old mother. If you looked at her social media, you'd see a woman who adored her family. She was constantly posting photos and videos of her daughters, 4-year-old Bella, a bright and thoughtful little girl, and 3-year-old Celeste, affectionately called Cease, who was full of fire and energy. Shanann was also 15 weeks pregnant with a baby boy. They planned to name Nika to the outside world. The Watts family was the definition of happiness. They had a beautiful home, 2 healthy children, and another on the way. But beneath the surface, their marriage was crumbling. Financial stress and emotional distance had created deep cracks in their relationship, cracks that were about to shatter everything. The night before the tragedy, on August 12, 2018, Shanann returned home from a business trip. Her flight was delayed, and she didn't walk through the door until nearly 2 a.m. Chris Watts would later tell police that they had a difficult, emotional conversation that night about separating. He claimed it was a civil discussion, but that he had told her their marriage was over. He painted a picture of a calm, albeit sad, parting of ways. But what really happened in those early morning hours was a far cry from the story he would initially tell. By the time the sun rose, Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were gone. Later that morning, when Shanann didn't show up for a scheduled doctor's appointment, her friend Nicole Atkinson grew concerned. Shanann wasn't the type to miss appointments, especially not one for her unborn baby. Nicole tried calling and texting, but there was no response. Worried, she drove to the Watts home. The first thing she noticed was Shanann's car, still parked in the garage. Peeking through the windows, she saw Shanann's phone, purse, and wallet on the kitchen counter. The children's car seats, which were always in the car, were still in the house. Something was terribly wrong. Nicole called the police to request a welfare check. When Chris Watts arrived, he seemed cooperative, but strangely detached. His calm demeanor struck everyone, including the responding officers, as unusual for a man whose entire family had just disappeared without a trace. The body cam footage from that first day is incredibly revealing. As Chris Watts walked officers through his empty home, his behavior was unsettling. He smiled at odd moments, avoided direct eye contact, and his answers to questions were vague and sometimes inconsistent. He seemed more concerned with the logistics of the situation than with the emotional reality of his missing wife and children. As police dug deeper, they quickly uncovered a motive. Chris was having an affair with a co-worker, a woman named Nicole Kessinger. He had told her he was separated and in the process of getting a divorce. The image of the doting husband and father began to fall apart, revealing a man leading a double life. The investigation intensified. On August 15th, just 2 days after his family vanished, Chris Watts agreed to take a polygraph test. He hoped it would clear his name and shift suspicion away from him. But the test did the opposite. He failed it spectacularly. The polygraph examiner told him that the results indicated he was being deceptive. Confronted with the failure and the mounting evidence against him, Chris's story began to crumble. He asked to speak with his father, who had been brought to the police station. It was in that room, with his father present, that Chris Watts finally confessed. But it was a partial, twisted confession. He claimed Shanann had harmed the children after he told her he wanted to leave, and that in a fit of rage, he had killed her. It was a horrific story, designed to paint himself as a victim, but it was just another lie. He later admitted the full, unthinkable truth. He had murdered his pregnant wife, and then he killed his 2 little girls. Following his confession, Chris Watts led investigators to the location where he had hidden their bodies. It was a remote oil site owned by his employer Anadarko Petroleum. There, in a shallow grave, police found Shanann. The most horrifying discovery was yet to come. Inside 2 separate, large oil tanks on the site, they found the bodies of Bella and Celeste. Chris had disposed of his own daughters in the most callous way imaginable, hoping their bodies would never be found. His motive was chillingly simple. He wanted a fresh start with his new girlfriend, unburdened by a wife, 2 daughters, and a baby on the way. He saw his family not as people he loved, but as obstacles to his new life. To avoid a lengthy and painful trial that would have forced the family to relive every gruesome detail, a plea deal was reached. In November 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to all charges, including multiple counts of first-degree murder and the unlawful termination of a pregnancy. He was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 84 years. The case never went to trial. Chris Watts will spend the rest of his life in prison, a consequence of his monstrous decision to annihilate his entire family for the sake of a selfish desire. The story serves as a terrifying reminder that evil can sometimes hide behind the most ordinary of faces. Thank you for watching. If you found this case as compelling as we did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories.